In what ways does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products?
Well, from our similar product research, we looked at the film The Great Gatsby. This film had quite a stylized opening. The titles were created to look like the opening titles of a film from the 1920s, when this film was set. However, when we experimented with titles being used in a more stylized manner, such as the way that Gaspar Noé uses them in his films, with rapid intercut titles appearing over the screen almost as if they're a main part of the film itself, along with the footage of the actors, usually in big bold fonts like Futura Extra Condensed. However, we looked at these and we thought that they would not fit the more somber nature of our film. Much of the film was centered around the pace of the backing track that we used, Black Flies by Ben Howard, and we felt that a more aggressive intercut and distracting approach for the titles would not work well with the song. We decided instead to have the titles fade over the scenes and to have them being faded away by objects passing in front of them, such as cars or actors. While we abandoned this convention completely, we did use some aspects from other films. We looked at the introduction to Schindler's List, and the entire scene focuses on a quite domestic setting inside of a kitchen, with candles being lit. This is actually heavily symbolic and a Jewish prayer ceremony. Our film introduction is also in a domestic setting, a kitchen, much the same as Schindler's List. And ours is also symbolic. The kitchen is representative of the indoors. The kitchen is the entirety of the indoors in the introduction. While it's shown as quite confined, quite small, the protagonist paces around it as if it's some sort of large expanse. However, when the second half of the introduction comes and the protagonist goes outside, the outside is shown to be infinitely larger. There's a scene right at the end of the intro where the title fades in, where the camera zooms in into the wilderness, and it comes to the point where you can no longer tell what is artificial darkness created by the computer and the editing software, and what is actual darkness being captured on the camera outside. We took inspiration from Saving Private Ryan in lingering shots of the protagonist's face. In the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, an old man walks with his family to kneel before the grave of what is supposedly his deceased comrade from the war. Our film contains two notable moments of facial expression. The first is when the picture frame falls onto the ground and the protagonist rapidly turns his head towards the camera, with an expression of shock and confusion. This shows to the audience that while the picture frame falling on the ground may seem an insignificant event to us, to him it carries some sort of great importance and is indicative of whatever mental condition he may have. This shows that the protagonist has become disillusioned with the suburban inside world, and for whatever reason wants to go outside and explore the wilderness. The cause of this would be revealed later on in the film, but as of now it's ambiguous. All the audience can tell from his facial expression of jaded confusion is that he no longer wants to have anything to do with the suburbs. The ending to our film introduction took quite a few inspirations from Schindler's List. The introduction to that film ends with the final glimpse of colour in the frame, a candle burning out as smoke rises from it. This symbolises the attempted extermination of the Jewish people during the Holocaust. Our film also ends, although it is not in as much of a symbolic way, with a scene that shows a transition from a prominent element in the film to the absence of it. And colour is present throughout the film, mainly yellow, brown, warm tones. However, as the film intro fades out and the title, The Wrong Tree, appears, there is nothing but black on the screen. And this would raise curiosity in the audience about what this could possibly mean, what the next scene would be, because it's implied that there'll be quite a transition between this introduction and the rest of the film, much as in Schindler's List, where none of the rest of the film takes place in the kitchen where the Jewish prayer ceremony is taking place. We decided to challenge a convention present in the opening of The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby opens with several shots of buildings that are absent of people, while a narration speaks over it, giving details relevant to the plot. We decided that our film would have no dialogue. The only words being spoken in it are in the backing song, Black Flies by Ben Howard. And this is to serve a purpose showing that we're trying to give a film that can communicate without the use of words so much. We're trying to make something that doesn't include dialogue, but rather through the facial expressions and the situations and the symbols within them can communicate a message as effectively as a film with dialogue. This was part of a deliberate attempt to make the film more artistic in nature. We took inspiration from art house films in some respects, such as the protagonist's disheveled, jaded facial expression throughout being reminiscent of the protagonist of Eraserhead's expression on the famous iconic poster for the film. This was done as we felt that the expression on this poster accurately encapsulated a feeling of mentally adult disconnect, and this was a theme present throughout The Wrong Tree. We adapted another convention present in the film Pulp Fiction, wherein there is a suitcase throughout the film that infamously is never revealed the contents of. You only see from behind when people open it up, and a bright light shines on their face. In a similar fashion, the picture frame that is very relevant to the plot and is the trigger for the protagonist's escape into the wilderness is never shown from the front, so the audience never has any idea of what is in the picture frame. Instead, we can only see the back of it and the shattered glass it leaves behind on the floor. It's intentionally ambiguous, and the picture that was inside the picture frame would probably be revealed at a later point in the film. This is an example of Roland Barthes' narrative code of suspense. While we do not answer the question of what picture is inside the picture frame in the opening of the film, it keeps the audience intrigued as to what the answer to the question would be. And throughout the film, there would be possible allusions to the mystery of what is inside it, with a final reveal at the end that would make the plot make more sense.